All right, let's dive into a tool that has seriously changed the game for developers on Windows. We're talking about the Windows Subsystem for Linux, or, as pretty much everyone calls it, WSL.
So, if you're a developer and your main machine is Windows, you've probably felt this pain. You really need all the power and tools that a Linux environment gives you, but you just don't want the nightmare of setting up a dual boot system or running a clunky, slow virtual machine. You just want to code. So, is there a better way to do this?
You bet there is, and it's called WSL. This is basically Microsoft's really elegant answer to that exact problem, bringing the best of both worlds right to your fingertips. So let's see how it all works.
So what is this thing, really? Well, when you strip it all down, it's all about getting a genuine, full-fledged Linux environment running without ever having to leave the comfort of Windows.
Okay, so the official definition here is actually super important. WSL isn't just pretending. It's not a simulation or some clunky old emulator. It is a super powerful layer that lets you run a real Linux environment. We're talking Ubuntu, Debian, you name it, right on your machine.
So what does that actually mean for you, day to day? It means you can just pop open a terminal and run your favorite Linux commands, like grep or awk. You can install the exact same development tools your production servers are using, Git, Node.js, Python, the whole shebang. And the best part? It all just works, side by side with your Windows apps and file system.
That all sounds fantastic, right? But how does it actually work? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the magic behind the machine, specifically with the version everyone uses now, WSL2. Okay, now this is where things get really cool. The original WSL1 was, pretty clever. It was basically a translation layer trying its best to convert Linux system calls into Windows ones on the fly. But WSL2? Whoa. It took a massive leap forward. It runs a full, real Linux kernel inside a super optimized, super lightweight virtual machine. And what that gets you is full system compatibility and way, way better performance.
So here's the deal. While there are two versions, the world has pretty much moved on. Whenever you hear developers talking about WSL today, they are talking about WSL2. It's the standard, plain and simple, and it's what we're focused on here.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the how. Now let's get to the most important question, the why. Why should you, as a developer, actually care about any of this?
Well, the benefits are just incredibly practical. First off, you get to use all those powerful Linux-native tools without ever having to leave Windows. Second, and this is a big one, you can perfectly match your production environment. That means you can finally kill those awful, well, it worked on my machine bugs. On top of that, it's way faster and uses fewer resources than a traditional VM, and it integrates so smoothly with tools like VS Code, it's just a joy to use.
All right, now let's tackle something that can get a little fuzzy for people. How does WSL fit in with all the other tools out there? We're going to clear up the biggest questions right now.
First up, WSL versus just running Linux on its own computer. As you can see, it really just boils down to who's in charge. With a dedicated Linux PC, Linux is the boss. It's the operating system. It gets full access to all the hardware. With WSL, Windows is still the host. So WSL is perfect for development and tooling inside of Windows, while a dedicated Linux PC is what you want when you need a full-blown Linux server or desktop.
So, to put it as simply as possible, a Linux PC is the operating system. WSL is a Linux environment that just happens to live inside your Windows operating system.
And now for the other big one, WSL versus Docker. This is where people can get really tangled up. But the key thing to understand is that their purpose is completely different. WSL is all about running a Linux operating system environment. Docker, on the other hand, is for running individual containerized applications. Here's the absolute simplest way to think about it. WSL gives you the stage. That's your OS environment. Docker gives you the actors. Those are the perfectly packaged applications that run on that stage.
And this right here is where it all clicks into place. They aren't even competitors, they're partners. Modern Docker Desktop for Windows is smart. It doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. It actually runs on top of WSL2, using it as its powerful Linux backend. And that's what makes Docker on Windows so incredibly fast and efficient these days.
Okay, let me give you a super simple analogy to make this stick forever. Think of your Windows PC as a house. WSL is like building a fully equipped Linux workshop right inside that house. And Docker containers? They're the perfectly packed, ready-to-go shipping containers that you build in that workshop, all set to be sent anywhere in the world. So after all of that, we finally land on the most important question, the personal one.
Based on everything we've just talked about, is WSL actually right for you?
Well, here's a pretty straightforward checklist. You should absolutely 100% use WSL if you're a developer on Windows, especially if you're working with web services, containers, or any backend code that's eventually going to be deployed on Linux servers. But if you already use Linux as your main OS, or you really need that direct, low-level hardware access for something specific, then yeah, you can probably skip it.
And that's our look at the Windows subsystem for Linux. It really is an amazing tool that bridges two different worlds. So the final thought I'll leave you with is this. Take a look at your own work, your own projects. How could integrating a seamless Linux environment like this actually change your day-to-day workflow?